Former President Thabo Mbeki's Foundation is honouring former IEC chairperson Dr Brigalia Bam, and this is part of the International Women's Day, and this comes as the country is celebrating 30 years of democracy this year. Let's take you live now to Edenvale in the east of Johannesburg for the remarks by former President Thabo Mbeki.
Committee for the Liberation of Africa. It was called the Liberation Committee. So we had to attend all of its meetings because naturally that is our route to the Organization of African Unity as a whole. So sometime in 1972-73, thereabouts, it met in Uganda. At that time, the head of state was Idi Amin Dada. Idi Amin was the head of state. So the Liberation Committee met there. It's a very interesting meeting. Our delegation was led by Oliver Tambo. At that time, there was a theory on the continent that it was called the domino theory. That the continent, in terms of the liberation of the continent, it had to move from country to country. So the dominoes would fall. And of course, South Africa was the last of the dominoes. So we had the Liberation Committee meeting in Kampala at ministerial level. And Idi Amin kept interrupting the meetings. More or less every hour, hour and a half, the chair, the foreign minister of Uganda would say, "Terribly sorry, Your Excellencies, His Excellency, the head of state, wants to come to address us." So Amin would come and he would say, "The struggle for the liberation of Africa is very important. So what we must do, we must start in Mozambique, then go to Zimbabwe, then go to Angola, then to Namibia, and then South Africa." Now he wants the Liberation Committee meeting to take that resolution. This is the strategy of the African continent. And then he would leave. After 2 hours, the chair would say, "Your chair, terribly sorry, Your Excellency, the head of state wants to come to talk to us." So he would come. Repeat the same story. He must have done it 4 or 5 times during the course of the meeting. Absolutely the same message. Now you can imagine, you see, we are there in this meeting and we're asked to be liberated. Not terribly happy about all of this. Fortunately, Idi Amin gives an instruction that when the meeting finishes, none of the liberation movement should leave without seeing him. So we're very, very happy with that. So indeed our turn came to see him. So overall, Batambo says to me, "Your Excellency, we had you each time you came to address the Liberation Committee on this. We don't agree. This is our own position and this is what we always should adopt." So Idi Amin says, "Now, Brother Tambo, I agree with you. The reason I was doing that, you see, I want our enemies to get it into their heads. That's our strategy. In the meantime, our strategy is Cape Town." That's Idi Amin. So we left the meeting happy. Now our strategy is Cape Town. Now I'm telling that story because Usishope features in that story. I can't remember where we were, but before we went to Uganda, she says to me, when you get there, there's somebody you will have to meet. And she gives me the name, Ugandan. So, okay, Sishope, that's fine. So indeed we get there. And the person that she had mentioned indeed asks to meet us, delegation of the ANC. So I was sent to meet her. Now this was the roving ambassador. That was her title. The roving ambassador of Uganda. Elizabeth Bagaya. Elizabeth Bagaya, also the princess of Toro. So Sislope had said to me, you must meet her. So indeed we met. Now we're meeting Idi Amin's roving ambassador. So very, very important, very, very glad that indeed she actually called us. And when I met her, she told me that no way, she had been told by Brigalia that she would need to meet us. Very interested to hear from us, ANC, what are we struggling about, what we want, what kind of, and all of that. So I spent the whole morning with her, discussing. Then we break for lunch. Then was resumed after lunch. She asked many questions about South Africa, about the continent, about why are the Arabs and the Jews fighting? I thought they were related. This is one of the questions she asked. And the Americans, what are the Americans doing in Vietnam? It's so far away from America. So me, I'm busy teaching the roving ambassador. So, as I say, we meet I get a message during lunchtime that terribly sorry, we can't continue in the afternoon because she's not well. So it puzzled me because she looked okay, but she's not well. So all right, but the meeting will continue later. So the meeting adjourns. Actually, when during one of the periods during the meeting, there's a reception. You get a hall like this, it's full of these foreign ministers. If we take that as the main entrance, and we, the liberation movements, are here. Frelimo, ANC, everybody, who are gathered here, and all these African foreign ministers here. So Elizabeth Bagaya enters. She enters through that door. And I can see her that no, she's coming in there. And what she does, she walks straight through, in a very straight line, down the hall to where we are. And you can imagine what happens. Elizabeth Bagaya is very stunning. She's a very beautiful woman, very cultured, very fashionable, very everything. Now you can imagine what happens, because you've got all of these male foreign ministers of the continent. As she's walking, they all turn like this. You could see all of them. She really was an extraordinary, lovely, lovely woman. So she came to us in order to apologize that she had adjourned the meeting. In fact, even now, recently she's here, because Amin insisted she must be coming to the reception, etc. So, but we will continue this discussion and so on. Okay. So, we sort out this matter up with the dominoes when he says the target is Cape Town. And then he talks more generally about the struggle and all that. And says, one of our weaknesses as African leaders is that we get too attracted to beautiful women. see a beautiful woman, then we start talking. We talk all the time. So I'm beginning to feel a bit uncomfortable. There was a family there, a Buganda family. The wife had been a student of the South African woman, had been a student of Oliver Tambo. So we visited them, and they talked about Elizabeth Bagaya, that she actually grew up in that house. She's got a degree out of the University of Cambridge. She's a qualified senior lawyer, extremely educated. So when I talk to them about what they say, no, what she was doing is no, you're not educating her. She wanted to find out what the ANC thought about various matters. In order, when she reports, she can make an assessment. What kind of organization is this? So I understood what Amin meant when he said, when men see these beautiful women, they just keep talking. But you know that, Sister, that engagement with Elizabeth Bagaya, that's what actually established the relations between the ANC and Uganda. Even after the change of government, they decided to maintain this relationship with Uganda, with the ANC, so that even when we had to move MK out of Angola, when Namibia became independent, we had to send our people to Uganda. Thanks to what you did with Princess Bagaya. Sister Mbonwana mentioned, we talked about the DRC. And indeed, I think all of us remember that, maybe we don't. We had to babysit the transition in the Democratic Republic of Congo. From all of these years of Mobutu to a democratic Congo, we had to babysit it. And when the elections came, the United Nations got involved. And in terms of UN processes, they put out a tender for the voting papers, the ballot papers. And that tender was won by 6 African countries, 6 countries in the world. So they had to divide the printing of the paper to so many different places. So we say, but you can't do that. If you want to correct something on the ballot paper, you can't do it if it's being printed in 6 different countries. So fortunately, somebody within the UN system whispers to us to say the only way to correct that is if you people volunteer to print the ballot papers and you volunteer to pay for it. So I'm saying we were babysitting the DRC in terms of this enormous historical transition. So we decided, all right, we'll do that. So we offered that to the UN, that South Africa is ready to print the ballot papers, we'll pay for them ourselves, we'll deliver them to the Congo and everything. So, okay, UN agreed. They said, okay, in which case we cancel all of this and you do the printing. We did that because of the historic importance of the Congo. Here is this huge, enormous country in the middle of the continent, bordering a whole range of African countries, potentially exceedingly powerful. And in our view was, if we can get the Congo to succeed, to develop, that would help the continent as a whole to develop. And the critical matter, 2 actually took critical matters in that transition, were the elections. I'll mention something else which was critical. So I said to Sister Stopper, we've got to do these elections in the Congo. They have no capacity to run the elections themselves. And so Sister will tell that story, but we asked her to say, Sister, please do this. It's because we knew who this person was, the caliber of the person. Because we are taking her and Sister, or you are throwing them into the whirlpool. They don't know the country, they don't know anything, but the task is to make sure that these Congolese have this possibility to take a decision about who should govern them. And that became their responsibility. And I'm very, very glad indeed that they did extremely well. That succeeded, and indeed that's part of the process of the normalization of the situation in the Congo after many, many years, which had started with the killing of Lumumba. And then all of these many, many years of government by Mobutu. The other element of that process was something that our chairperson here had to handle. It was to help to establish an administration. Okay, here you are, you've done your elections, you've set up a new government, but how does it run the country? So our chairperson had to go there to lead a delegation to help them to establish an administration in the Congo. That's when they discovered lots and lots of ghost workers. People are on the payroll. I don't know, Geraldine, how many thousands who are on the payroll and are paid every month, but don't exist. But somebody is collecting all this money for the ghosts. Geraldine and others had to go and sort that matter out. But I'm saying in the first instance, Sistopo had to make sure that the Congolese have this possibility for the first time in 4 decades to have the possibility to decide who should govern them. And I'm saying they handle that matter very, very brilliantly. So we have an organization here which is, I think, little known in the country. It's the Institute for Global Dialogue. Sister has been sitting there in that leadership of the Institute for a long time. And for us, the foundation, that's our think tank in terms of international relations. These are the people who advise us on all manner of things globally. And I'm saying Sister has sat in the leadership of that organization for many years. We asked her to chair the board of the foundation. Unfortunately for us, she agreed. We're asking her to do that in order to give sufficient weight to the organization. Because when we were launched, the foundation was launched, you had many participants in that launch. The former president of Ghana, former president of Mozambique, lots of people from Senegal. Because the view was that this foundation is not a South African foundation, it's an African foundation. There's an expectation on the African continent that this foundation had to do certain things African, not things South African. And it seems to us that when we stand up to do these things African, we need people of weight and people of worth to come and lead. I'm very, very glad indeed that Sister agreed to do that. That task, Sister, remains. Because part of the expectation from a whole number of African foundations is that we would convene them so that together as African foundations we can do our work jointly. They made that proposal because they knew the quality of the leadership of our foundation. We still have to do that. There are many, many things, Mr. Robert, that I can say about you, but really, Max, the CEO of the foundation, told me that even when you left as our chair to join the advisory council of the foundation, we never said thank you for the work you had done as chair of the foundation, of the board. So that we must come here today and say thanks a lot for everything that you did. I want to devote a poem to you, Sister. Somadoda will translate. Somadoda, uyazazi isiXhosa?
Yes.
No, hlala phansi lo, hlala phansi. Shukumani bafazi, ushenxiluma mageqegeqe, ufinyisa amaqhorho, ushenxisa oodade okade esakha umuzi, egutyula iirhanga zamanxila, egudusa amahilile agoduke, kubuya amadungundwane emazweni, itye lesiseko seTopiya, maze mabele made yaseAfrika, okwanyisa usapho lukandulu luphela, azinonyaka yaphusile nje lokangwa intokazi kabani na. There's somebody who translated that thing and said, it says, women arise, the mother of scraps has turned aside. She helped the snotty blow their noses. The community builder has turned aside. She swept out the motley drunkards, chased the homeless back home. So vagrants returned. Foundation stone of Ethiopia. The full-breasted woman of Africa suckled all the black children. Since this year, her breasts have dried up. Whose daughter will take her place? Lokangwa intokazi kabani na, andazi intokazi esikhona uzawuthi na xa siphendula. But Sister, thanks a lot. That's a poem by S.E.K. Mkai, who wrote it in honor of Charlotte McLean. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think we could have a better thank you.
All right, that is former President Thabo Mbeki there speaking at an honoring ceremony for the former IEC chairperson, Dr. Brigalia Bam, on International Women's Day.